Hi guys, in the previous section we looked at the course overview, looking at the different parts of what's going to be in the course. We also had a look at me and what I do, and also we looked inside of Kali Linux, the different commands and features available to us so that you're able to start web penetration testing. In this section, security vulnerabilities, a website's worst case scenario, we will take a look at SQL injection, SQL map, types of cross-site scripting, working with XSSer, and filtering and validation. In this video, we're going to take a look at SQL injection. We'll understand the concept of SQL injection and how it works. We'll also use curl to recognize a SQL signature. The reason we say SQL signature is because certain errors will show if our SQL injection worked. Errors that are associated with SQL errors are what we will define as an SQL signature. Not all errors are signifiers of injection though. So first of all, I've got average shop script up, and in the order.php there's obviously, if you go to home, we can see that there's products that you can buy, and once you click on them you can go to an order ID such as this one. So basically what I've done is I've killed the script and echoed out the command so we can all see what's going on. So in this instance we have select everything from product where ID equals to 1. So everything within the table, which is product, has the ID attribute as 1, select everything in that. The thing about SQL injection is we need to trigger an error, and the way to do this mostly is by looking at this ID here as we've got. If we use another quotation, we've got two quotations here encapsulating this one. If we just simply add another quotation here, we can see that we have this stray quote on the right here, which isn't really intact with anything else. It's by itself, and this would potentially trigger an error as we haven't fully filtered or validated any of the input that's going into ID. If we look at order.php, we just simply get a GET request, as we can see here from ID, and also we have the initial query I've got set here, select from product where ID, and this is where it's set, and we can see the quotations here. If we had the user input, which would do this, then we've got a single stray quote which would potentially cause an error because there's nothing defined to it. It's simply by itself, and the way SQL works is it will cause an error, and potentially we could append other things to it. So for example, if I simply put here, remove this, and from now on this here is the user input. If we just put 1, and if we put our quotation there, then we have a stray quote, and we can also append, as I've said, other things. So for example, a very famous one is and 1 equals, and we can just simply add another quotation and not add another one here, just have it as this. So the user input that we could put within the ID would be such as this, and this would create a always true statement. And this has happened before with logins. If they're not correctly verified, can log in someone that can bypass the authentication, or you can also do other more complex queries which could select data from databases completely, which obviously isn't great. You can grab details of various things, so we could append stuff to it if it's not properly validated, as it isn't here, as it simply just gets it from the GET request. Nothing else is put upon it. So let's show that as an example instead of showing it here. I'm just going to refresh this, and you can see now that we have some reviews. We actually have a description and a picture and also a title. So if we want to break the script and see if it's going to get an error, we're basically doing a test to see whether it has any validation. So we're going to add another quotation here. We can see that we get an error message this time, and this gives us a sign. It isn't always the case, but it gives us a very strong case to say that this is SQL injectable. So we're going to do another example, which is 1 equals 1, and we're leaving the quotation because we have the quotation that was supposed to encapsulate the user input, but because the single quotations are not filtered out in this query, it gives us the ability to use them in a certain way to append other things. So we're leaving that now to make sure that the SQL will now not break, it will not find an error. So if we do this now, it will find that it's always true, as 1 is equal to 1. But if we now put and 1 equals to 2, we can say that is false. 1 equals to 2 is false, so therefore don't do it. So these are some very simple commands that we can use to test whether it is SQL injectable. We're now going to go into curl and have a little look into how we can actually fasten the process. So first of all, we need to get a terminal up, which is available here, and we're going to basically be using curl like we did last time. But first of all, we need to know IP for our web server that we are hosting. I'm hosting it on my host machine rather than on a virtual machine. And I'm basically going to be first trying to set a SQL injection like that. And we can see that curl doesn't like that whatsoever. What we need to do is we need to wrap this in double quotation. And we'll see now that it comes back. But this is rather long. We can see the error here, but it is still really long. We don't want to see this. We need to use something called grep. So we're going to be using this character here to send the information from curl to grep, and we're going to put in quotations MySQL. Now in this page we're basically searching for text that is MySQL. If you have a document about MySQL, it will find the text MySQL, and you may want to put another piece of text. If we look up here, a common error is, expects parameter to be 1, or warning, or something like that. So if you wish to do a different sort of search query, that's fine, but for now I have nothing on MySQL on this page, and so it is probable to just use MySQL for this reason. So it searches it, and we find that it's much easier. We don't get the whole page text. grep searches for us, and it finds a positive result, that it has found MySQL, which is here, and we can identify and now use another tool, or do it manually, to start using SQL injection in a productive way. So in this video we've learned about basic SQL injection and how we can identify it. We get that error. It can be different. It isn't always expects parameter to be 1. It can be something else as well, but we do get an error very similar to that. We've also used curl and grep to shorten the search, so we don't have to use the browser in case there's visual elements in the way, or we just simply don't want to use the browser. The next video we'll be looking at is SQL map, and that's going to be part 1 of a part 2 series.